For my money, this is the last true wilderness you will find in the UK. Hey, and welcome back to Wild Dav. I'm Dav, and if you're joining me for the first time, you're welcome. And for those of you that might be joining through One Man and His Whippets channel, you're also welcome. We've been discussing on that channel canoe expedition that's taking place in a few weeks' time. And what I thought I'd do today is talk through some of the equipment I will be taking with me. For a bit of context, this is a pretty exciting expedition. For my money, this is the last true wilderness you will find in the UK. I'm not going to disclose the exact location, but for those of you who are canny, you should be able to find out where we're going. But needless to say, it's about a 13-hour drive from here. It involves canoeing and portaging. That's when you actually carry by hand your canoe. And we'll be dropping into a remote lock system, camping out on an island for 4 nights, and basically testing some pretty fancy equipment as well. And a trip like that, we really do rely on our expertise and the equipment that we take with us. This isn't the kind of camping where if things go wrong, you can just walk back to your car. Where we're going, there'll be no phone signal, and if anything bad happens, we will be a 45-minute paddle and an hour and a half's car ride away from the nearest help. So it's pretty remote, and with that in mind, we pick our equipment specifically to cope with those conditions. So what have we got? Well, obviously, we'll be canoeing. This is a one-man canoe. Most of us will be going in 2-man canoes. They're slightly bigger, and they allow us to take quite a lot of equipment. Unlike ultralight hiking or camping, canoeing allows you to take way more equipment, which is very beneficial. So let me talk you through some of that. To start off with, what will I be living in? Well, I'll be taking a tent, but not any tent. I'll be taking a hot tent. A hot tent is a tent that accommodates a wood-burning stove. This is the wood-burning stove, 900 grams, weighs virtually nothing. And on that, not only do we keep ourselves warm, but we can cook as well. When it comes to cooking, we'll have a number of different options. And if the weather is fair to us, we will be cooking on open fires most of the time. And so we'll be taking a kettle. This is a stainless steel kettle that can go directly into the embers or could be hung on a tripod above the fire. And this means it's dead easy to get your morning cup of coffee. But we will also be taking the famous Dutch oven. We'll probably have 2 of these on our trip. That allows us to bake, to cook an evening meal, and we might even cook a Christmas dinner as well. So cooking wise, we share out the utensils, but this is my share of what will be going with us. Sleeping wise, I'm taking a 4-season sleeping bag, but I'm also taking an additional down quilt that fits inside. So with that sleeping system, we should be able to get through temperatures down to about -15. Hopefully it won't be that cold, but it has happened in the past. So we prepare for those conditions. In addition to that, what do I sleep on? Well, I take a closed cell foam mat, which is the blue thing at the bottom. And I will also take a winter thermarest, which has an R value of about 5. So it's very, very warm. And I will also take an additional thermarest. The reason I take this is it goes under my very expensive thermarest and gives it protection. But this one also, combined with this, gives me a seat that I can sit on around the campfire. I don't want to put my fancy thermarest anywhere near an open fire. So this one's been through the wars. It's been on countless expeditions, and it comes with me. In terms of electronics, I obviously take a head torch, I take a backup head torch, I take a power bank. The power bank is enough to charge my phone several times and my cameras and equipment that I take with us. In terms of water filtration, I also take a particle filter, and I also have a filtration system, which is a kind of squeezy bottle that basically filters all of the water for me. And then we also, obviously, because we have a fire on the go most of the time, we can boil water as well if we really feel it's necessary. Another big part of this trip really will be ensuring we have enough firewood, ensuring that we can basically keep warm for the entire 4 days. So we will take a selection of axes and other tools that allow us to process wood. So when we get to the island, as soon as we have daylight, we will forage and collect as much wood as we can, and then we will process it and store it close to the fire. And that should allow us to have a fire continuously for most of the 4 days. So hopefully when we record some of this trip, you'll see some of that in action. Okay, so we've talked about equipment. Let's talk about logistics. How do we get all of this stuff out onto an island in the middle of nowhere? Well, it's really important that we protect ourselves from an inopportune dunking, i.e. capsizing the canoes and falling in. So everything is protected in that regard. So we use a selection of dry bags, which are watertight bags, and barrels, which are airtight and watertight. And between these 2 things, we can make sure our food, our sleeping bag, all of our electronic equipment is protected should the canoes capsize. So these come in a variety of sizes. I like to think that most of this kit has a second use. And when it comes to the barrels, that's absolutely the case. So yeah, this gets all your equipment to the island safely, but when you're on the island, it's also safe and secure storage for your food. It allows you to keep stuff outside of the tent without worrying about it getting wet or damp, and that's a game changer if you're in a very small environment. So these are very practical, and the bags as well double up as rucksack liners. You can sit on them, keep yourself dry if it's raining outside. So very, very useful bits of kit. And in terms of getting out to the island, well, this isn't a canoeing instruction video, but there's an important element to this because of the logistics of it. We'll be driving for about 13 hours and arriving in the dark, which means we'll be setting off on our trip, canoeing and then portaging and then dropping into a lock system and then canoeing again in the dark. And so in order to make sure we do that safely, we operate as a group. So there'll be two-seater canoes plus this one-seater canoe, and we'll be traveling together. And for the portage, which is about 400 meters or so, we'll be dragging these canoes like dog sleds. We'll have a harness system that we put on. All of the gear goes into the canoe, and then we'll be dragging it up and over a hill into a separate lock system. And then when we paddle out to the island at night, there is a high potential for things to go wrong. So we operate as a group. If the wind is high, some of us in smaller canoes will struggle. So there's a chance we may raft up together. That's essentially tying the canoes together and operating as one vessel, trying to get over to the island. The island's probably 45 minutes away from the mainland. So, if something were to go wrong in the middle of that crossing, we would be completely reliant on the skills and expertise of the people in the team. So when it comes to making this trip, what personal equipment do we wear? Well, we even have to select that appropriately for the conditions. We're going to be doing a lot of canoeing, but we're also going to be doing a lot of portaging. We're going to be dragging this canoe through mud and through bogs. So footwear is important. So we need some kind of rafting, canoeing or canyoning footwear that allows the water to drain out through the bottom and has sufficient grip to protect yourself. So this is an example of the kind of shoes we'll be wearing. Most importantly, we will always have a buoyancy aid whenever we're near the water. This one is designed for kayak fishing, but it's useful because it accommodates a knife, it accommodates pockets where we can carry particular bits of rescue equipment we might deem necessary. And then all of us will have on a dry suit. So this is a suit that is fully waterproof. It has latex seals at the ankles and at the wrists and at the neck. And we wear thermal insulating layers underneath that. So if we're to go in, we're not going to get cold quickly. We'll have enough time to sort ourselves out. So there's the kind of trinity really of the dry suit, the buoyancy aid and the boots. And on top of that, we will also have head torches, we will have hats, we will have maps to navigate. So hopefully I've given you a good flavour of the equipment that's needed for this kind of trip. I think it's important to really reiterate though, these types of adventures are really only for people that have quite a bit of experience getting out on their own or as part of a group and basically looking after themselves. Each member of this team has been on countless expeditions in the UK and overseas. We're all competent canoeists and we all know each other for a very, very long time, which means we know how each other responds in an emergency. So if you're looking at this and thinking, that might feel a little bit too much for me, it's also worth saying there are many, many other operators out there, tour guides and coaches that offer these types of experiences, but in a far more controlled environment. So I really hope that when you watch the videos, when we come back from this trip, you'll be infused to maybe think about how you might get involved in something like this. These are absolutely phenomenal trips, considering you're not leaving the UK, but they are potentially dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. And that more comes down to the conditions you're going out in than anything else. In the far north of Scotland, where you have no phone reception, where you are on an island, you're an hour and a half away from the nearest help, you need to be sure that you can look after yourselves if things go wrong. But if it's beyond your confidence level, then we would suggest you maybe look at a tour operator and doing this trip in a more controlled environment. So that basically wraps up the preparation for this trip. But much of this kit I do get to use in my own woodland a lot of the time, and I haven't really said yet about this channel. It's reasonably new, and one of the things that's really motivated me for putting these videos out is I know there are people sat watching them who want to give these kind of things a go, but maybe don't necessarily have the confidence level. I'm pretty lucky in that I've got a woodland very close to my home that I use for much of my bushcraft and camping, and get to use this equipment. And one of the ideas I have at the back of my mind is that eventually, if people want to, I may invite small groups of you into the woodland so we can look at this equipment more carefully, maybe put some of it to use, have an overnight camp, and basically give people a semi-wild experience. So if that's something that you think, hey, yeah, I'd like to give that a go, drop me a comment. And if there's enough at you, we maybe try and organise that in the future. That's something that certainly is at the back of my mind. But in the meantime, do watch my channel, watch my videos. We'll be going to Scotland in a few weeks, and then as soon as we're back, we'll be putting up videos around that. Hopefully it'll be a really good adventure. And in the meantime, thanks for watching and stay subscribed. Cheers.